You're watching The West Country Tonight with Simon Clemison and Claire Manning.
Hello, welcome to the programme. The family of an Italian grandmother who was murdered in her home have told The West Country Tonight they are tormented every day by the brutal way she met her death. Antonietta Guarino's beaten body was found in February after an extensive police search.
Her former lodger, Mark Riley, pleaded guilty to her murder, but today his ex-partner, David Carbursto, was found not guilty of the attack. Both men admitted disposing of the body, but Carbursto says he did so as he was scared of his former lover. Ellie Louise Ringe has been following the case for us at Bristol Crown Court.
Yes, well, it took the jury 5 hours to find David Carbursto not guilty of murder. Now, this trial marked the end of an extensive murder investigation and extensive police search after Mrs. Guarino disappeared from her home in Trowbridge back in January. Now, both David Carbursto and Mark Riley, who has admitted murder, were arrested by police after they were found to be using the missing woman's bank cards.
Mark Riley withdraws money from a cash point as David Carbursto watches on. They use the cash to buy DVDs, CDs and groceries from a supermarket. But the money they're using belongs to Antonietta Guarino, the 61-year-old grandmother Riley bludgeoned to death days before. Mrs. Guarino had decided to take in a lodger to make ends meet. 24-year-old Mark Riley moved in, and within months his boyfriend David Carbursto was also living there, without the permission of Mrs. Guarino. But it was in February that an argument over the living arrangements would come to a violent end. Riley killed Mrs. Guarino, striking her 12 times around the head with a hammer. He and Carbursto then wrapped her body in a shower curtain and, using her own car, drove it to a deserted stretch of the River Avon and threw it in. They then went to a friend's house where they ordered pizzas. Riley pleaded guilty to murder, but Carbursto always claimed he played no part in the attack, only stepping in to help cover up his boyfriend's actions. When asked in court why he'd helped dispose of the body, he replied, "Mark asked me to. He had an angry voice, and I thought that if I didn't get involved, I'd be the next victim." The jury was told that for 3 weeks the couple continued to live at Mrs. Guarino's house, telling her worried family she'd gone to visit friends. All this time, the pair was spending her money. They bought a computer console, clothes and even a car. But the jury accepted that Carbursto had played no part in the attack on Mrs. Guarino and found him not guilty of her murder.
Ellie Louise, you were in court. What was the reaction of Mrs. Guarino's family when that verdict came in?
So Mrs. Guarino's children have been in court every day to hear the horrific details of the last moments of their mother's life. As the verdict of not guilty for David Carbursto came in this afternoon, they burst into tears. They were too emotional to speak to me on camera this afternoon, but her son Tom Sebastiano did give me this statement. He said, "I'm not sure that I'm able to find the words to express the depths of sadness my family have had forced upon them following the callous, calculated murder of my mother." She was murdered in her own kitchen, surrounded by photos on the walls of her family and the people she loved. Her needless death has left an enormous void in all our lives. We loved her dearly and will miss her forever. Now, of course, David Carbursto has admitted to disposing of the body, something even his own defence counsel described as wicked. The judge today sentenced him to 4 years. His former partner, who's admitted murder, now faces a life sentence with a minimum of 20 years behind bars.